All right, welcome everyone to Bass Fishing Live. I think this is our second episode of the year,
Yep.
and now we got off to a great start last year. This is my first episode. I wasn't able to make it last week. Got off to a great start last year. Had some great guests. Who
Yep.
do we have? We had Gerald Swindle.
Yep.
We had Jordan Lee. We had who's that dude from Alabama? Will Davis. Was that his
Will
name?
Davis was on, yeah.
Will
Will
Davis. I mean, we had some really good anglers on. We had more
Yeah.
than that. Those are the three I come to mind.
Yeah.
Um, and we're starting off tonight with another heavy hitter that's kind of flying under the radar because he's new and he's young.
But he's
Go ahead
making
and
a name
present
for
yourself.
himself very, very quickly.
Yeah, he just had a great tournament. So we'll give some folks time to get on. Major League Fishing just kicked off, wrapped up tournament at Toledo Bend, won by Dustin Connell, who was, I think, it's his fifth win in
I
the
think
MLF.
I think it's
Bass
his
Pro
fifth.
Tour.
I think it's his fifth overall and his fourth like regular season win. Like
Gotcha.
a stage win.
Here's what I said. And look, if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know your favorite place to fish. If you're a regular, we know you're great. If not, introduce yourself. Here's what I said after he won, though. We talk about Jacob Wheeler and we talk about Jordan Lee and we talk about these guys being the best in the world. You have to talk about Dustin Connell now.
You do.
You have to. You know, like I think he was kind of known as like Jacob Wheeler's buddy for a long time.
Yeah.
But dude, that guy is a killer. And so
He's
yeah.
man, he's good. He's good. He really is. I to be honest with you, I just enjoy watching and I'm sure we'll get into it later, but dude, watching him work a jerkbait is impressive. It really is.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
It sounds a grown man saying they like to watch another grown man work a jerk bait.
Oh, dude, I don't. It's like it worked today. It's
By
like
the way, our guest is gone. By the way, our guest disappeared. What happened to him?
He was having some. I think he was having a little bit of issues with his internet, so
Yeah.
he'll be back.
All right, we have people watching, but we don't have anyone coming, so we want to see where you're watching from. Let us know.
But you were saying a while ago that watching another grown man work a jerkbait
is a little.
That might sound a little weird, but it's like it worked today. We were talking, and they got some streaming services in one of our rooms, and golf came on. I was like, dude, I love watching golf, especially when Tiger's playing.
Tiger's playing, right?
And one of the
only
dudes
time I watch.
He's like, yeah, I'm sure it's awesome. You get to watch another guy hit a ball with the club, and I'm like, dude, you just don't understand.
Just shut up. No, I'm kidding. All right, well, let's. Looks like Drew is ready. He's moved around a few times. I see him down there. So let's go ahead and bring Drew. Let me introduce him first. So our guest tonight is Drew Gill. He's from Mount Carmel, Illinois, but he's actually, Josh and I are Kentucky boys. Eric Hubbard's here. He's a Kentucky boy.
Sir.
Drew actually fishes for Campbellsville University. I think that's what he said. And he is wrapping up his degree there. Now, I told him, I said, Drew, let's be honest, you're not going to need that degree, but then you got to finish it, right? One semester left, you got to finish it. But he just finished in, was it third place? Yeah, third place. I know he was in second. I wanted to say second.
Going into the period, man, it was
really hoping he pulled it out. Yeah,
it was.
But he finished in third at Toledo Bend. He is considered a rookie on Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour this year. Great start to win Rookie of the Year. I know there's other good rookies out there. Matt Becker won it last year, and he's off to a great start again as well. And I reading about Drew today, Josh, you've talked to him more than I have, but reading about him, I read that Drew is considered one of the best forward-facing sonar guys in the world, and he's 21 years old. So,
I'll have him talk about it a little bit. But I seen a post, and it could have been Drew that posted it. I want to say JT Kinney that had said like this year's lineup is setting up perfect for Drew because he's so good at using the sonar. So
doesn't it make sense though that the young guys coming in are going to be better at the electronics?
And good for them, dude. Good for them.
And I'm sure there's a slew of old grumpy guys that are not liking it, but they'll be okay. They had their time,
They'll
right?
be fun.
So, all right, let's bring Drew on. Drew, have you figured out your technology there, brother?
I
I'm
hope
not
so,
talking about.
man.
I'm not talking about the forward-facing soda. I'm talking about your internet. Something we've had for a long time,
Yeah,
Drew.
yeah. I'm currently sitting. I'm touching the router with my arm right now. So
There you go.
If this isn't gonna do it, I don't know what will. So we're gonna try our best for sure.
Well, we hear you fine. You're a little choppy. Listen, we had one of our most popular shows last year. We had another Campbellsville guy, Dalton Smith. You know Dalton?
Yep, I know Dalton. I fished
He's a
against Dalton
guide
my
out
freshman
on.
year.
He's a guide at OHIV. We had him and
Yep.
one of those other big time guys on. They just caught a set. One of them just caught a 17-pounder.
It's the dudes
Kyle
down
Hall?
on OHIV.
Jason Kahn.
Yeah, that's him.
Jason Kahn. He fishes with Randy Moss all the time, the football player. So anyway, we had them on, and it was we had dozens of people watching. I think it got up to like 100 folks watching at a time, thousands of views. But my internet in the Airbnb sucked. Were we at the Classic?
No. We were good. It was theirs because they were traveling back and forth because they were guiding trips, and they were.
But I was in an Airbnb. Were you in an Airbnb with me, or was I by myself?
I think I was here. I think I was at the house.
What was I doing? Anyway, but yeah, so we're used to that, so it's no big deal, man. But we're so glad you're here, and man, heck of a week you just had.
Yeah, I was really appreciative to have the start of the season that I did. You know, ultimately, when we talk about that field and the quality of that field, obviously this is a tough ask, but if you're not going out with the intention of trying to fish for Angler of the Year in mind when you're fishing a tour style league, like you're short selling yourself. So, you know, the goal is obviously to try and compete for Angler of the Year every year. And man, you can't really do that if you don't start making steps in the right direction to start the year with a third. I'm more than happy for sure.
Yeah, it did. I think in the top 10 for stage one, I think there was 3, including you, Justin Cooper, and I want to say his last name is Villa, like Matt Villa.
Martin Villa.
Martin Villa.
Martin Villa.
3 new guys on the Bass Pro Tour, and you got to think, dude, you're all fishing up there. You know, we always talk about, everybody talks about, you know, DC and Jacob Wheeler and all them. Dude, you're all right up. Right. Why wouldn't you shoot for Angler of the Year? You know, wow. Obviously, y'all can do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the aim, but man, trying to dethrone guys like Becker and Wheeler and Alton Jr. for trying to claim that title is so hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. So let me ask you this. So just reading up on you and kind of everything that I've seen over the past 2 weeks, I kind of think it's a little crazy that you never, if this is correct, Major League Fishing says you never fished a bass tournament until you was in college.
That is not correct. So I fished.
Oh man, they got it wrong.
And I fished 1 year of high school fishing. Fished 1 year of high school fishing, and I fished some local stuff for my junior year of high school and my senior year of high school. So I had fished a little bit, but I hadn't fished a tournament outside of the state until I got into college.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense. Yeah. So when did it kind of when did it start? Like just fishing in general? Because I mean, especially now, like we go to the Classic, go to the Expo, and you have thousands of kids that are from like 5 years old to 17 years old, and that's the dream, is getting there and fishing on that stage. Yep. When did that kind of become a reality? Like when did you decide, like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do?
I mean, I grew up loving fishing. Me and my dad would fun fish from as long as I can remember to, you know, until I was, like I said, until I about got my driver's license. That was when I bought my 01 Ranger is what I bought then. And for that long time, I just went fun fishing. We'd just go fishing, fish for whatever bit, reel it in. It was fun. But man, I was a competitor for a long time. You know, I was a multi-sport a year athlete. You know, I competed in everything. I was and am an extremely competitive person. And whenever the love for fishing and that competition aspect combined, man, it's all I wanted to do. And but until I got into college, the idea of fishing professionally was something that really didn't dawn on me. I knew it existed, you know, growing up fishing, but it just wasn't something that was really on my radar until about a year into college. I realized that I was pretty good at it, and it was something that, you know, even at that point, it wasn't like I'm gonna be a professional. It was, you know, I would love to have the opportunity, and and then, you know, the start of my, you know, it started my sophomore year of college, toward the fall of my junior year. That was when I got to fish the first year of Toyotas that I fished, and just kind of hit the ground running. And ever since then, you know, it's just kind of fallen into place piece by piece.
Well, you said that you played multiple sports. What other sports did you play growing up?
I primarily played baseball, golf, and basketball.
Okay.
But it was mostly just baseball and golf. I played basketball because I enjoyed it, but I wasn't very good at basketball, to be perfectly honest. But I was pretty good at baseball and golf.
Neither was John, but he played.
If I wasn't good, then Josh was terrible. Okay, there's tears to this. Hey, so you said you played golf, and we mentioned Tiger Woods before we brought you on. And then you talked about being a competitor, and it reminded me of this video. You guys may have seen it. I've seen it on TikTok where I think it's Fred Couples interviewing like a really young Tiger and asking like, what's your goal in finishing in this tournament? And Tiger's like, well, I want to win. And this is, you know, going back to you saying, if you're going to fish a tournament, you're going out there to win. And the guy interviewing him, I think it was Fred Couples, kind of laughed and was like, well, you know, you'll learn. You think you're going to win your first tournament? And Tiger's like, well, I just don't see the point of going out there if you're not trying to win. And they kind of laugh at him, and then Tiger won that tournament. And, you know, of course, you know, the rest is history. So, you know, that kind of reminded me there of that when you were talking about it. Does it phase you at all? Like, you know, if you didn't really consider professional fishing till maybe your sophomore year of college, does going against the big names phase you at all? Or do you even think about it when you're out there?
Man, it does phase me a little bit, not in like a way where it affects the way that I do my job, but if you grow up, you know, I could say grow up. I didn't watch them since I was like 8, but in high school when I really started getting into it, started watching tournaments and stuff. I mean, I watched tons of hours of watching Jacob fish and watching Michael Neal fish and watching, and you know, I started watching about the time that you saw Matt Becker and Dakota Bear start springing up, and like. That watching these guys and recognizing how good they are because of how many hours I've spent watching them is something that is intimidating, because like to an extent we are fishing against the fish. Like obviously if you don't beat the fisher, you're never going to beat the anglers, but you get to a threshold where beating the fishery is not good enough. You know, you look at that tournament from Toledo Bend last week, 3/4 of the field beat the fishery. You look at the best 5 fish they caught of their bags, or how many fish over 3 they caught throughout the course of the week, or what their big fish was. It's very evident very fast they beat the fishery. But there's a difference between beating the fishery and keeping pace with that field. And that is the most intimidating factor. It's not just good enough to be good enough. It's not just, you know, something where meeting the expectations for that fishery is good enough to be great. If you meet the expectations for the fishery, you're going to be mediocre. And so you have to go out there and treat it as if, you know, that is one thing that does kind of, I guess, frustrate me at times when people talk about, you know, local knowledge and things like that. Is like when you talk about the field that is the Bass Pro Tour field, and you look at the anglers that are in that field and the numbers they do from week to week on these fisheries, they're better than the local knowledge every time. The field, these are reverse. Most tournaments, you go and emulate what the locals do on that fishery to fish it. Our tournaments, the locals emulate what we did that week the next week. And that's it's such a crazy paradox, because I went out. So I had some trolling motor issues this week in practicing for Rayburn, and I just got a new trolling motor on yesterday and didn't have time to try it out on Rayburn and make sure everything was good to go. I went out on Toledo today, just drove over there to drop in and run around, make sure my trolling motor was good to go, my scope transducer was where I need it. And wouldn't you know it, there were probably 10 boats in a parking lot that I hadn't seen a boat in the entire week of the practice and the tournament, and every single one of them was out doing exactly what the field was doing last week at Toledo Bend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
trying to
hear
master
that a lot, man. When we go to some of the tournaments, I mean, you can see the boats out there just watching and watching and watching, and then as soon as they're gone, they're hitting it. So I don't know if you're familiar at all. It reminds me of the Hunting Public. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they came on our other show.
I know who you're talking about. I know that page, but I don't want them.
Okay, they came on our other show, and I can't remember which one it was. He was talking about going hunting, and he was like, "Man, look, like everybody in the area knows, like for instance, if soybean fields are hot, everybody is looking on Google Maps trying to find soybean fields. You have to do the exact opposite of what everybody thinks. Right. Like where everybody's going, you have to do the opposite of that. So I feel like you all are finding things that, your typical angler is not going to find. Like they're just not going to do
And
it.
a lot of that stems from, when you talk about guys that are younger, guys that have adapted to the technology, it's easier for guys that are younger to adapt to the technology than it is for older guys. Not because older guys can't do it necessarily or that they can't understand it. It's because when you've made $2 million doing something, you know how hard it would be to drop doing that and try to relearn what you do.
Sure. Yeah.
Because ultimately, those guys were amazing at what they did. They were the pinnacle of the sport for so long. But that was back in what I'll call the guessing era. There was a time period before forward-facing sonar where your guys that were the best were your best guessers. They were right the most often, but they weren't right always. You've got half a dozen guys now that are right always.
Yeah.
Between now
that
and then.
changes everything. Hey, just going back to being competitive, you're, talk about if you're standing on the deck of your boat and you get a score update. And I was looking at the weights and, in the not the knockout round. What's the 2 rounds? The qualifying round. So you're standing there and, the guys like your marshal or whatever says, hey, you have 81 pounds in second place, Jacob Wheeler, 91 pounds in first. That's how you guys finished. Are you thinking more about the guy that's ahead of you? Or are you thinking more about those guys that are behind you trying to creep up? Or do you think about it at all?
This is a mentality thing where you think about it regardless, but it's how you think about it that changes. So this is something that still applies to 5-fish format tournaments, even when you don't know other people's weights. When you look at the end of a day going into the next day, is like if your sights are set on where is the cut line and where am I in relation to the cut line, it's really hard to do your job effectively because you're in survival mode 24/7. You're not looking for the best deal in the lake. You're looking for the next deal. You're trying to shortcut it all day long. And what you're trying to do is have 7.5 in our format, 7.5 good hours is what you're trying to have if you're in survival mode. 7.5 decent hours versus if you look at it from the other side, if you're looking at aiming, okay, what does the leader have? What do I need to have to catch up to the leader? What you're doing is you're like, I can't afford to just have 7.5 decent hours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 5 hours trying to have 2.5 really, really good hours where I just land on them and annihilate them because you are not going to keep pace with that field just trying to skip by. And so if your bar isn't set at the top of the field, you find yourself getting buried really fast. And that applies to 5-fish tournaments too. I mean, the number of times where you go into a tournament setting the bar for yourself and saying, if this isn't a top 10, I'm going to be disappointed. The amount of times where you finish in the 90s, 110s, 130s, heck, even 50s or 60s is not very often. When you set that high bar and you fish for that bar and you don't fish for just good enough or you don't penny pinch here and there, when you're fishing to try and win the event, you almost always do better.
Hey, I'll be honest. Just 1 second, Josh, I'll let you jump in. I'll be honest. We've talked to, whether it's on this show or interviewing at tournaments, the best guys around. And you're really the only one that I've heard take such a technical approach, like almost a scientific approach to it. You know what I mean? Like you're taking out the guessing, you're taking out, numbers. the process is so technical. It sounds like for you.
Yeah, man, it's all technical. It's all extremely numbers based. Because ultimately, as humans, we have bias, regardless of how we want to look at it, or regardless of our opinions on things. We have bias, and if we
Yeah.
can do everything we can to just take the bias out of it as much as possible and make it purely about the numbers, and this is a big part of how I fish. Is like two words are the most important part of how I fish. Um, these tournaments all year long is bite percentage, bite percentage,
Yeah.
bite percentage, bite percentage. Why would I want to have to find 200 bass to catch 10 when I can just figure out how to catch them as best as possible in practice and catch 10 out of every 30 I find?
Yep.
Because guess what? Let's say I'm a little bit less efficient at finding fish, but I find 75 fish and I catch 10 out of every 30. Okay, I find 75 fish, I catch 10 out of every 30. I'm catching 25 out of 75 fish.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm a guy that's catching 10 every 200 to catch 25 fish, I've got to find 500.
Right.
500 bass. Why would I
Yeah.
want to do that when I can just choose to catch as many as humanly possible?
Yeah.
And that's been a big thing for me is like you don't want to have to find the mother lode to compete.
Yeah.
You want to have to find something that's good and make it great because of the way you approach it.
That's a great answer, man. Like you are just I'm impressed by the way, just by your approach, especially at your age. But this is where bass fishing is now. This is it. I mean,
I love it, to be honest with you.
it's not
too.
the future, it's now.
Not just the technical aspect, but dude, your confidence too says a lot. Like
Sure,
you're
for
very
sure.
confident in what you need to do, and I mean, obviously, this past week, you just make it happen. I like what you said. Like if you're trying to make that cut line, like my job the last 10 years was all about standards, like standards. Like
Mm-hmm.
meet that standard. Well, why not try to exceed that standard? Why not try to go past that line? So I think that's a great point. It really is. Some of our comments, if you're watching, we got about what I can see
About 30 people.
About 30 people watching right now. We've had some people come in and out. So if you're just joining the show, let us know where you're watching from. We've had people. We got a very heavy.
Got some Drew fans in here.
Wherever you're at, just comment where you're watching from. Facebook user. Also, if you're watching in our group for some reason will not pop your name up. So if you could just out by
Put
when
your
you
name.
comment, put your name. But Facebook user says, and I don't know who this is, John, but it says, "How is John on a fishing show when he can't fish?"
That's Scott Butler.
I assume that's Scott Butler giving you a hard time.
He's just sitting there eating fudge rounds with his belly out watching this. You know how he is. It looks like one of your fishing teammates at Campbellsville, River Blanton, one of his sons,
yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
him.
Yeah, he's a freshman there. Said you guys have a good team. And then you got two folks here. Mark says instead of you being phased by the pros, they're phased by you, which I can totally understand that.
But before you move on, so we were, dude, knowing like you, especially you were coming on the show this week and everything, dude. I was hoping, dude, everything watching that third period unfold. Like me and John was texting the whole time, like, dude, I hope he comes out on top, because I mean, I think you were down with less than like 3 pounds going into that third period, and when I seen that comment, I thought, dude, I bet when they told Dustin Connell the scores, I bet Drew Gill was phasing DC a little bit.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
I love it, man.
I started getting close, and I thought I had a good shot going because at the second half of the second period, I'd caught an almost 7. I'd caught a couple 3 and changes. I'd caught a couple 4 and changes. And I was like, things are rolling really well with, the quality I was catching was really high. And I was like, if I can upkeep this quantity with the same, average, 4 and change average fish, I mean, I was going to steamroll, and I
Oh, there he is.
There he is. There we go.
All right, you're back. You see us? Drew, we can't hear you. I don't know if he can hear us either.
I'm not
Can you
sure.
hear him?
I cannot. No.
Okay. We do have some more comments. Drew, you're the man from Southern Illinois. He's sitting there talking. Drew, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I don't think you can hear us.
I'll send him a text.
Okay. I'll read some comments. So we got somebody from Lewisburg, West Virginia. We appreciate you watching. Matt Portseller watching from Illinois, home of the Power Plant Lakes. That reminds me of Chickamauga. They have a big power plant there. We saw that. Drew, the man from Illinois. Anita is watching from Mount Carmel, Drew's hometown. Maybe I don't know if Anita is related, but Anita, we're so glad that you're here watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Matt says, I knew Drew was a real deal when he caught a couple 30-pound bags in Illinois. Yeah, Illinois not really known for bass fishing. Great deer hunting, but not really known for bass fishing. So I'm sure, that's what a lot of the guys who are pros talk about when they get questioned all the time. How do you become a professional bass angler? And they always say, when you start winning your local tournaments. Start there. Win your local tournaments. If you can win your local tournaments, start fishing your regional or state tournaments. When you can win those, then you're on your way, right?
Yep.
Looks like I can't win local tournaments. Well, I don't have that dream. I just like to talk to the guys.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Drew, you good?
You got me back?
Yeah, there we go. We're good.
I felt bad because you were just really hammering away on that answer, and we're like, yeah, we can't hear him.
But yeah, going into that last period, I thought I had a good shot, and I just couldn't keep up the BPM, man. If you don't keep up that bass per minute frequency that you have to stay in it, especially with just one period left, you're just out of luck. And I ran around, tried to make a little bit of an adjustment. I thought maybe somewhere in that general vicinity, because generally when you get around such a high average quality, somewhere around there's a high frequency of bass, because to get true giant fish, that fish over 6 pounds, you have to have a ton of fish around for a portion of that population to reach that size, because just by odds, only a small percentage of that population will ever get that big. And so, I'd caught 2 other fish that week over 6 pounds out of that area. And I knew that, with that above average size around, there had to be a better frequency somewhere around. And I just, in the amount of time that I had on that last day, I just didn't dial in where that majority population was.
Drew, I'll be honest, when, just hearing your competitive side, I mean, it's evident. And when you said, I said, hey, great start, you finished third. It is great, but was there a little bit of disappointment there too? I mean, so many people would be thrilled with third, but it seems like I'm guessing you were a little disappointed.
Absolutely, man. I've come. Let's see, I've come within the top 5 in a major tournament. I think 8 times now.
Yeah,
7. 8, I think 8 times. And don't get me wrong, there was one time out of those 8 times where I was truly in the position to win, and that I was like, I'm gonna full send it and I'm gonna go for it. And that one tournament taught me really quickly that you don't fish to win. You fish for a top 5, top 10. And if you line up, in a 5-fish tournament, traditional 5-fish tournament, if you line up to have yourself within a few pounds of that lead, which is generally going to be somewhere within the top 10, and you have that one best day of the week on the last day, you have a top 3 bag of the tournament, because that's generally what wins a multi-day 5-fish tournament. Is the person that wins the tournament is somebody that catches the biggest bag of anybody on the last day. And so at St. Lawrence River this fall, or this summer in August, I was in third at a Toyota there with 23 pounds after the first day. And I had the fish found, objectively, I could see them. I had only caught 5 fish off that spot all week, and they were all over 4.5 pounds. And I knew that if I could get them to bite, I could win it. And I spent too much time on it. I made a 102-mile one-way run to them on the St. Lawrence River. I ended up only having about 3.5 hours to fish after running there, running back, and getting gassed twice. And I sent it and ended up falling flat on my face on the St. Lawrence River. Didn't even have a limit on the St. Lawrence on the second day. And just went for it and failed. And generally speaking, I feel like your safest chance to consistently have the ability to win an event is to put yourself within a bite a day of winning that tournament. and one of those times you'll get that extra bite a day. And I'm bummed out by finishing third a little bit, just by the fact that I've had 7 or 8 opportunities now and been within that top 4 in an event like that. But I mean, you keep putting yourself in that position, eventually it's going to line up, and it only takes winning one of them to make it worth it.
Oh yeah, it's I think 2 things. So like I'm trying to find the comment. Billy Potts said, "Drew's the real deal. Proud of you." Watching you last week, just your performance. I'm thinking, man, this dude can fish. But then speaking with you today, it's like, dude, it's going to happen for you. It's going to. It's going to happen.
Matter of time.
I truly think you're the future of professional fishing coming up. Like one of our buddies that's been on the show before, Bradley Roy. For years, man, he kind of started off slow, and then he built up. He got a couple.
He was one of the youngest guys too, though. He was young when he got started.
Yeah, and then a couple of top 10s, and then he, I can't remember where it might have been. It was down south. I wanted to say like it was the heavy hitters that he ended up winning, and then it was just
he won the season opener, I think, in 2022 at Bussy Break.
It was.
That was it.
There you go. Listen, you're not gonna get one by Drew here. He knows.
No.
He knows. He's a historian too.
So, dude, I really think
every event.
Go ahead.
You have to. It's like scouting for a basketball game.
Every event and all of bass fishing for the last 5 years. Just about every professional event. So Chuck, for the last 5 years, I remember most of it.
Chuck Condiff here said you cut your teeth in the Hanging Rock Bass Club. Did you get to where you're just dominating those guys?
Do what?
Did you get to where you're just dominating those guys?
No. When it comes to fishing our little lakes around the house, they are really, really good. So, I never got to the point where I was dominating them. Another fun fact: I never won a single one of our club tournaments, not even once.
Wow,
so.
okay.
Wow. It's
they have those bragging rights on you. You're gonna have to go back.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back and fish them for sure. It's funny you say that.
I'm gonna have to work a couple in.
Well, I've fished some tournaments up on Kentucky Lake a few years ago. There was 2 or 3 years, me and my buddy Jackson.
You participated. Let's be honest.
We didn't do very well. We did not. And
you participated.
Well, at least I participated, John.
I know my limit.
But we get up there, and you're talking 150 people are fishing these tournaments on Kentucky Lake, and huge. A ton of people fishing it. And dude, we'll go out and catch like, in Kentucky. I'm going to say in my defense, Kentucky Lake was kind of on the downfall at the time. But dude, it didn't matter because you would have these local guys, these hammers come in, dude, with 5 massive fish. Like and it didn't matter. I feel like I really think if you look at any tournament, I can't remember the guy's name. Him and his son would fish. They were always
I was trying to think
first, second, or third place, and I think his dad actually fished in Bassmaster when he was younger before he retired. But dude, they always dominated. Yeah. Always dominated.
Yeah, and those are guys that will they'll fish every local tournament there, and they'll make 30, 40 grand a year just because they always fish, and they're fishing every weekend. Robert Pig, that's a great last name, Robert. Says Drew is great on the water, but his character off the water is 100, and that's the best compliment you can have.
Right? It is.
BJ's awesome.
But I could also see, Drew, you having like a KVD Iaconelli moment, just your competitive side coming out if someone pulls in on you. Do you have you had any run-ins? You don't have to name names, but
run-ins, man, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm not somebody that's prone to run-ins just purely because of either I'm fishing somewhere that is totally so off the wall nobody else is around, or I'm fishing an area so different from the way that everybody else is fishing that unless I get cut off by like 10 yards, I'm not really concerned. As long as I can fish around, do my thing, I don't get upset about it. That's one thing. Growing up fishing lakes that are as small as the lakes that I grew up fishing, 2 to 3 mile long lakes, you build a pretty good a pretty good resilience to fishing pressure.
Yeah.
And so, it's not like a Tommy Biffle, if you're fishing in my creek, get the heck out of here, because if I even see your boat, you're fishing my water. It's not
That's
one of those
funny.
situations. When you grow up fishing where I've fished, you're pretty comfortable fishing off somebody's transom when you have to.
Right.
And so as far as run-ins go, yeah, I've had many times where I fish around other people, but dude, if they're cool with it, I'm cool with it.
It's the best way to be, man.
That's something that also comes from just being confident that
Sure.
no matter who you're fishing around and what you're fishing, that you're going to get more of them to bite than they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not something that I'm saying like I'm just going to blow the doors off everybody I fish around all year and I'm just going to win everything. But that's something that's saying like if I feel like I'm truly dialed, I don't care who's fishing around me.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. I love the confidence.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah,
let's talk about. I know you're getting up early in the morning. You've honestly probably been working all day getting ready for tomorrow. But before we dig into Sam Rayburn, I think I keep saying I think it was. You may be able to say for sure. I want to say it was JT Keeney was saying that this schedule this year is really lining up good for you. So what event are you really looking forward to coming up on the
let's do this
specifically?
Yeah, let's throw Sam Rayburn in there, preview Sam Rayburn, and then tell us another one that you're really looking forward to, because we're running out of time.
Okay, so Rayburn, we're kind of looking at, it's a very different tournament from Toledo Bend. Toledo Bend last week, you saw a traditional offshore wintertime scoping tournament. You saw guys in the middle of nowhere throwing a Demiki rig and catching a bunch of big fish, suspended, a lot of times chasing bait too. Rayburn, you're not going to see that. Rayburn is a much flatter, sandier lake, less timber and less bait. And with less timber and less bait, the fish don't relate suspended offshore the way they do at Toledo. Guys are going to smoke them offshore. The tournament's going to be won on live scope regardless, but it's going to be a tournament that's a little bit more of what you kind of standard expect in a pre-spawn tournament. You're going to see jerking, trapping. You're going to see guys throwing a swim bait. You're going to see probably a little bit of cranking. You're going to see some more traditional pre-spawn stuff play this week. And the big X factor at Rayburn is big fish. You cannot catch a giant bag at Rayburn. That 20-plus bag. You can't catch that catching 5 4-pounders. You aren't going to catch 5 4-pounders in a day at Rayburn. What you're going to do is you're going to have a couple 2-pounders, a 3-something, and then you're going to have like a 6 and an 8. And if you truly want to have a chance to win this tournament, you are going to have to catch probably 2 fish a day on average over 6 pounds for 3 days straight. Yeah. And that's kind of I call it an X factor because it is. Like, it's something that's really hard to pin down and replicate. So it's going to be pretty unpredictable as to who's going to win this tournament.
Yeah. All right. So now the second part, what are you really looking forward to? That sets up really well for the way you fish.
I mean, there's a good handful of them that really excite me. The two that I look forward to the most, like one from the Invitationals, one from the Bass Pro Tours, I heavily look forward to Dale Hollow with the Bass Pro Tour. That tournament is going to be unbelievable. The weights are going to be stupid, and Dale's a fishery that I love going to.
I would love to make it
anytime I get to go to Dale.
Dude, I had no
anytime
idea.
I get to,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anytime I get to go to Dale, I'm ecstatic. And then with the Invitationals, we go to Kentucky Lake in April. And I have spent more time on Kentucky, probably double the time on Kentucky than I have spent on my next most visited big lake. I mean, being 2 hours from the house, I've spent a lot of time on Kentucky Lake, and I finished third in the Toyota at that same week this past year. So I'm excited for that one very much. But I mean, man, we got some tournaments on the schedule this year that are really cool. Detroit River is one that excites me. I love catching big smallmouth. And a tournament at Detroit going to either Clare or Erie in July. Regardless of what direction you go, you're going to catch a bunch of big brown fish. And that's something that really excites me. And then the most interesting tournament we have on the schedule this year is the Chowan River in North Carolina with the Bass Pro Tour. It's a place that I would dare say 1 out of every 20 people you interview in bass fishing might know it. But 19 out of 20 aren't going to have any clue where that place even is. Yeah. And if you take a little look at tournament weights at the Chowan River at about the time we're going to be there, they are stupendous. It takes almost every local tournament takes over 30-something pounds to win. If you don't have low 20s, you do not. And like people make this claim all the time, but like this is verified by facts. If you do not have at least 22 pounds in a tournament at the Show on River, you probably don't get paid that time of year.
That's
And big
great.
fish is almost always 8 to 11 pounds.
Yeah,
It's a
that's exciting.
truly unbelievable fish, and it's not just at the top. It's all the way through the field. I mean, 15 pounds is darn near dead last on that place, and for that to be a title fishery in the South that kicks out that kind of weights, it's going to be a really unique tournament, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, Zach. I said Zach. All right, Drew. We will. We're gonna let you go in just a second. No, you got to get up early tomorrow. I just want
No
some
doubt. Yeah, it's gonna be
non-fishing, well, kind of fishing, but some just Drew Gill questions here. So you're finishing up your degree. What is your degree going to be in?
So I'm getting my degree in business marketing. That was kind of the angle, which I mean, it's still fishing related, but that was
that
the
works.
angle I wanted to go when I started my college career, and that's what I'll be finishing up sometime this year. So.
There you go. Okay. I mean, and there's definitely as you continue your professional career, ways you can use that. So that's great. You said you play sports. What's your favorite sport outside of bass fishing? To play or watch?
Oh man, to play or watch? I'd like to say to play golf, but honestly, I don't get to play enough for it to not be extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
I get to play maybe twice a year, maybe, and it's horribly frustrating when I do. So I'd say my favorite sport to watch is baseball. I mean, growing up playing it, it's something I definitely understand, and it's something that's enjoyable for me to watch because I can relate to it. I'm not Cardinals.
Oh, Cardinals. Okay.
Yeah.
There's Kentucky. We have a ton of Cardinals fans in Kentucky too.
Yeah, probably in West Kentucky especially. But and then I assume toward the central part of the state, you probably got more Reds fans than anything.
We do, yeah.
Yeah,
And then the eastern part, we have Braves.
Yeah, me and John grew up.
Yep.
Our dad loved the Reds, so we went to Reds games all the time. So
almost wore a Reds hat tonight, actually. But yeah, we're kind of divided, man. Braves, Reds, and Cardinals. It's being divided. When you're on the boat, I know you are focused, but when you get a second, what's your favorite snack to keep on the boat?
Oh, boat snack? Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its, 100%.
Oh, man, I love Cheez-Its. What Cheez-Its? Is it a specific Cheez-It? Because, dude, I can go for some of them Colby Jack Cheez-Its, dude.
Original Cheez-Its.
He's original, dude. All right, who is your, growing up, you don't have to say now because they're your competitors, but who was your favorite pro angler?
Probably Aaron Martins.
Oh man, yeah.
Aaron was one that I always enjoyed watching, and he was super fun to watch. He was still a very intense competitor, but he was fun to watch. He was so at the time he was so different. He was so ahead of his time in the way that he fished that
he's innovative.
Aaron had the access to the technology that we have now. Then with Aaron's approach to bass fishing, if he had today's technology, then he would have been almost unbeatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, the guy, I mean, when people pass away, you usually hear just great things about him, but he truly was a guy that before that, like I've never heard anyone speak negatively about that guy. He was loved by so many. Man, just one of those guys gone.
I mean, I have never met him, never spoke to him, but like I literally get chill bumps right now thinking about at the Classic, they made a
like
video,
a memorial,
like a tribute to
him.
And dude, it was so sad. But dude, what I love about like all the competitiveness and everything, dude, I do feel like whether you're a professional angler or just the fishing community at that level, dude, it's just a tight knit.
It is. It's great.
That when even if your competitors on the water, if you need something, they're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of really good people in this industry, for sure.
Do you prefer the five fish bag limit, or do you prefer the total weight?
So in this,
or every fish,
it kind of has to be a little bit on a less than, equal than, greater than scale. I would put five fish kind of in the middle. I like five fish better than the every fish with the 1 pound minimum. When they had the 1 pound minimum, it allowed guys to win tournaments fishing in a way that was contrary to catching lots of big fish.
Okay.
The every fish counts with the 2 pound minimum, I enjoy better than the 5 fish format because it rewards the repeated catching of fish. Or, it's 2 pound minimum, but really when you're fishing 2 pound minimum, you're catching a good dose of 3, 4, 5 pounders.
Yeah.
And it rewards a guy for catching an excess number of fish over 3. And in my opinion, it's not even in my opinion, objectively, if you caught 7 bass in a day on a fishery and you caught 19 pounds and you won a tournament, but a guy caught 17 3/4, but he culled 14 times and he caught 1 million fish. That dude caught 40 fish over 2 3/4 pounds that day. Does the guy that caught 7 fish really deserve to win? He didn't understand the fishery. He just played the format. Everyone that's ever won a 5 fish, and I've won 5 fish tournaments locally doing this, catching 7 or 8 fish a day. I won the tournament because I played the format. I didn't win the tournament because I understood the lake the best. If you understand the lake the best, you're catching more quality fish than anybody else. That is understanding the fishery. And between the 3 different times, or I guess the 2 different times the weight gets zeroed over 3 different rounds, and the every fish counts format with the Bass Pro Tour tournaments, it ensures that the person that understood the lake the best that week wins every time. And the person,
as a fan,
you saw it.
It's the best.
It is. It really is. I watch both, but dude, I love watching Major League Fishing. It is just.
And as a competitor, I enjoy it more because, like, on the last day, when we were, just deep in it, 2 periods down, I'm sitting there ready to go for period 3. I had 28 pounds, 10 ounces at the end of the second period. If it was a normal tournament, I would have just been sitting around waiting to get the weigh-in over with and get on the road because I had almost 30 pounds in my best 5. But in that format, guess what? A 3.5 pounder is a 3.5 pounder, no matter if you have 200 pounds or 0.
Yep.
And so it keeps you mentally in it. And like we saw last week when on my part about saying that the angler that understood the fishery the best, or the ones that understand it the best, are always going to win the event. You look at Dustin's week from start to finish, there were only a small handful of people that had that week start to finish. Dustin did, Spencer Sheffield did, Wheeler did, and I did from start to finish, but I'll have to throw Zach Burge in there too, because Zach, as the week got on, he just got better. Yeah. He got better as the week got on. But there were 4 guys that were just on him from the first day of the qualifying round to the end of the event. And you saw that play out by those 4 anglers being 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end of the day.
Yeah. Looks like we do have a viewer question. TVA versus Highland Fisheries. What are you picking?
Oh, my goodness. So just a little backstory on this comment. This is my freshman and sophomore year fishing partner asking this question.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of leading.
Looks like he's holding a muskie in that picture. I can't tell.
It's a gar probably that he shot with a bow.
Okay. Maybe, yeah.
So this is leading because he has a deep innate hatred for TVA fisheries because they mostly TVA fisheries look great on paper, but like they suck. They do. Other than Guntersville, all of them are pretty mediocre fisheries. So I'm going to go with Highland Reservoirs because Highland Reservoirs are full of fish. When you figure out how to catch them on a Highland Reservoir, we're talking about a Cherokee, a Dale of Cumberland, a Table Rock, a Bull Shoals. Whenever you go and you figure it out and you dial it in, you go from feeling like there's not a fish in the fishery to feeling like no matter where you go, you can catch one. Because there's so many fish in those fisheries, they just tend to be pretty smart. And if you just take the time to figure it out, you trash them and you put everybody miles behind you.
And I love Cherokee. We grew up going to Cherokee and in Norris Lake when we were young. They were taking us. Our uncle would take us striper fishing all the time, man. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy Cherokee a lot.
Last one, Drew, and we'll let you go. Eric says, "What other rookies do you think will be in top contention this year? Is it a good class this year? I don't know who.
Oh man, I mean, so I guess I'll say for both BPT and BPT, we don't have a formal rookie of the year, but I mean, obviously something people pay attention to is what rookie does the best consistently. I mean, you got to look at it. Marshall Robinson is one that Marshall's a good buddy of mine, and Marshall is the most versatile angler I know. He can truly do everything equally well. And then you got to look at like Martin Villa is an incredibly talented angler. He does well everywhere all the time. He doesn't ever, he just goes fishing and catches them. It makes no sense, but he's really good at it. And then another one is Ron Nelson. Ron is a guru, and it just makes sense to him. He's one of those guys where he doesn't even have to think about it that hard. It just makes sense.
Does it, yeah.
And he goes out and catches them everywhere. But for the invitationals, for Rookie of the Year, I'd say you guys got guys like Alec Morrison, Jake Lawrence, Alec won the Northern Division AOY for the Toyotas last year, top 10 the Toyota Championship at Table Rock, and he won the Sam Rayburn Toyota last year by 26 pounds in that. Second one is Brody Campbell. He won Chickamauga last year by a stupendous margin. He top 10 the first Toyota of the year at Okeechobee this year. I think he actually top 3'd it. And he top 10 Table Rock last year. He's unbelievable. Jake Lawrence, we all know who Jake is at this point. Jake has walked on everyone at Kentucky Lake and Pickwick, and you can only win every tournament every time your boat touches the water if you are really, really good. He's one that will be very, very dangerous. And Jordan Wiggins is one that I would put a lot of money on too for the Invitationals Rookie of the Year. He's brothers with Jesse Wiggins, which
that's
a
what
lot
I
of
asked
us
you.
recognize. But Jordan has an unbelievable track record. When you start getting, he's pretty low key, just like Jesse, but his track record is pretty crazy.
There you go. I think fishing is just going to continue with the electronics we have and technology, and guys like you who come in, you're not just out there fishing. Like, you really dissect and have a great approach to what you're doing. It's just going to keep getting better, right? I mean, it's just going to separate. It's really going to be a larger separation from the guys who do it for a living and the guys who just, pound the banks on the weekend. But Drew, man, we'll let you go. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, brother.
Absolutely. It was a good time.
And we wish you the best, and we're always going to be pulling for you, and go win Angler of the Year, and we'll have you back on to recap.
Sounds good. You guys have a great night.
Hey, right, thanks, Drew.
Have a good night. We'll see you.
No problem.
I'm very impressed.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, that was the confidence. We've had guys on that have done this for decades and are not as polished when talking about fishing.
Yeah, dude. I'm very impressed. Kind of like I said earlier, with my job the last 10 years, confidence is like the one thing.
In the Army. I mean, you got to say what you did. You were in the Army.
But confidence is something you look for.
Yeah,
all the time, dude. Like, you want somebody that's confident, and he's got it. He does. And him having, I mean, everybody's already talking. I mean, the way fishing's going, and I'll just personally say, I have no issues with forward-facing sonar whatsoever. No. If I had a big, nice bass boat, you better bet that forward-facing sonar one would be on it.
Get your house built and then go get you one.
I'm going to. 2, I would go take a class with someone or get someone to teach me how to use it real well. And then I would go try to win, and it's not as easy as people think. Like,
oh gosh, no, it's not.
It just, people think that for example, I went crappie fishing last Saturday, and I have a little Garmin Striker 4 on my crappie. We're talking little, but I can read it pretty good, especially when it comes to crappie fishing. I can find them. So I get on the lake, dude, and I immediately start finding groups of crappie. It's arc after arc after arc, not one school bit. I threw everything at them, dude. Trolling, casting, jigging, everything, dude, and could not get them. And I thought, dude, the wind wasn't blowing. I'm sitting in the same spot, and these fish, like, they'll move around a little bit, but they're staying mainly in the same spot. And it's like, this is ridiculous. And it made me realize, like, dude, just because you have forward-facing sonar does not mean anything, dude. And it's the way it's going, I think, with the way people talk about Drew and his ability and his skills with forward-facing sonar. He's what the future is going to be of Major League Fishing, dude. It really is. I'm very impressed.
Did you see Chuck Condiff here? He knew the name Bill Schroeder or Schrader.
Yeah, so Chuck.
I don't know if it's Schroeder or Schrader, but that is definitely the name.
Yeah, Bill and Billy Schroeder. Chuck, thank you for putting that on there. I was trying to.
They dominate,
dude. I fished. I think me and Jackson fished 7 or 8 tournaments up there. they won every single tournament, every one of them, dude. And it's dude,
awesome.
they're just. And here's the thing,
Dude, they're making good money doing
they're
that.
not the only big sticks that go to Kentucky Lake. You know, they're not, dude. There's a lot of good locals, but they're like the local. They just, dude, they and I think Bill Schroeder, I think he fished.
Appreciate you, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bill fished on Bassmaster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking years ago, and maybe his son did. His son may have fished like the
BFLs
before the Bass Pro Tour became a big thing, and did well. So, but yeah, dude, great guest.
Yeah, I don't think we have a guest scheduled for next week. Josh will be working on it. This is definitely a show we're trying to do every Thursday, and we're focusing on professional bass fishermen. Both sides, both the Bass Pro Tour with MLF and the Elite Series with Bassmaster, and they still have a couple weeks before they kick off. But yeah, check us out every Thursday. Check out our page.
After talking to Drew, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll through. I wrote some of the names down he was talking about in the invitationals, and some of these other rookies per se on the Bass Pro Tour, and hitting them up, dude. Because if they're anything like Drew, dude, there's the future is. I mean, regardless, the future is bright for bass fishing
for sure. It's like a couple years ago, I asked a buddy of mine. I said, "Hey, we're starting this show, and I'm wanting to have some guys on." Who is and this friend of mine? He has fished some of the. I don't think it was BFLs. I think it was maybe
Toyota?
some of the Toyota series. I don't remember what it was called. Excuse me. I said, "Who's the best fisherman you fished against?" His answer was easily Matt Becker. I'd never heard of Matt Becker, and then Matt Becker comes on Bass Pro Tour last year as a rookie. I thought he won Rookie of the Year, but he actually, as a rookie, won Angler of the Year. So, there are some good guys. There's some good bass anglers out there that we don't know their names. I didn't know Drew Gill until a couple weeks ago. But they're coming, and they're coming
it's that time. It's kind of like the guys we grew up watching, which was, KVD and Ike and all them. They're getting older, and they're starting to, not that they're going to retire soon, because, I mean, you can see Ike in his videos. He's got plenty of years left of fishing.
But
some
if he wants to, he don't have to fish.
He retire, and then you've got, Jacob Wheeler and Dustin Connell and all them guys.
They're young. They're still young.
They are. They're young. They're starting to take the lead, and then you've got these young guys like Drew and Justin Cooper last week that we spoke to. He is, it's his first year at the Bass Pro Tour. He had a good tournament. He fished he finished in the top 10. Toledo Bend's it is his home lake, and he had a great tournament. And he's another one that's an up and comer, dude.
The guy that I want to have on the show is not actually a bass angler. I want to have former Major League Fishing announcer, commentator, I guess, Marty Stone. I don't know. He's not there anymore. No. He got laid off. He didn't get. I guess you could say fired. He was, I thought, the best on the show. Some people disagree and thought he was the worst.
We've only got 16 people on here, and if this is also a question for people that may watch afterwards, is when I was posting last week about the tournament, I was posting, giving updates on the qualifying rounds, knockout rounds. But during the qualifying rounds, there was a lot of people upset that they were not live streaming the qualifying rounds.
Yeah, I was upset.
I was too, because what I do is when I'm if I'm at work and I'm busy, I will literally, like, if I get a 5-10 minute break, I'll throw it on my phone real quick, watch for a minute, and then I get back to work. And I couldn't do that I think they started showing it on day 2 for Group B of the qualifying round. So the last day of the qualifying round is when they started live streaming it. So it's like the first 3 days they've cut. So I don't know if it's just budget cuts or what it is. I don't work there, but I'm interested to see what everybody thinks about it and what, because there was a lot of people upset. A lot.
I was upset, and that actually is what led to the. I saw people talking. I think it was on Twitter. They were mad that they weren't showing the first 2 rounds, qualifying rounds, And then that led to the conversation of budget cuts, which led to the conversation about Marty Stone, who apparently fell victim to budget cuts. So
It's terrible.
I don't know. Major League, here's what I know. I think Major League Fishing has the best format, but I think we're going to see more anglers leave and go back to bass just because of the consistency.
Yeah.
Just because, one, the classic. The Red Crest will never be bigger than the classic.
Speaking from not experience of fishing, but of experience of being there, there's no way that I would be a professional angler and not want a chance at the classic.
But to be fair, we've never attended Red Crest. And I'm sure the Red Crest Expo is great, but the thing that Red Crest doesn't have is the live weigh-ins.
Yeah.
That is where the magic happens.
When you get what's his name?
Kyle Welcher, Jason Christie.
No. That was awesome. Poor Kyle Welcher. What's his name? Giant bass.
The big guy. I don't know.
Hey, so I'm gonna look him up right now. But someone tell a story on John real quick. It is fantastic. So we went to the classic. This is last year.
I have no idea what it is.
We go in the back. So when we get there, we take an elevator down to the ground level. And what is it? Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And we get down there. When you get there, we get our media badges. Dave Mercer. Thank you, Eric.
David Mercer. Thanks. Yeah.
So we get down there. I can't believe John's not already remembering, but we get down to the ground level. We get our passes. We go in the back. And we start just seeing what everybody's up to. We kind of take it slow the first day,
I don't know what you're talking about.
going. And they're about to start the weigh-ins. We're back in the back. People were talking. People were starting to go out. And I'll tell John, I'm like, hey, I'm going to run out. I'm going to get some footage of the weigh-ins off of my phone so I can post on Bass Fishing Live. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to run over where the boats are, and I'm going to try to interview these guys as they're coming in on their boats. I'm like, all right. So we're about to split up, and as we're walking out, Dave Mercer is standing there with his wife, and John accidentally bumps into Dave Mercer. Like he kind of accidentally. I
don't remember this at all.
You don't?
Not at all.
You just act like it wasn't on purpose. You accidentally shoulder checked him, and he looked at you and he said, "You need to watch where you're going." And then he just started dying laughing, dude.
Are you sure? Josh,
dude, I
seriously have no memory of this.
I'll never forget it because at first I was extremely embarrassed to be seen with you at the second. And then he started laughing, and I thought, oh, thank God.
Dude, did I react? Because I have a great memory.
As soon as it happened, you bumped him, and you even you turned with your arm out, like, oh, sorry. And he said something of the sort of you need to watch where you're going, or you don't need to bump into my wife. And you kind of just chuckled, and then he just started laughing. You don't remember that?
I have zero memory of that.
Bro, it definitely happened. I'll never forget.
Okay, but here's the thing. I'm not saying it didn't happen. We've never even talked about it.
It 100% happened. But what I was going to say is when you get down there where he ran into Dave Mercer, they always have good food, dude. And
they have great food at the class. No. Hold on. 2 years ago in South Carolina, Hartwell, they only had good food the very last day.
Yeah, that's true.
At Thompson Bowling, they came out of the gate with good food. I'm sad that we won't be going to Oklahoma this year. But we both have new jobs we can't take off 4 days for.
Yeah. So it's
maybe next year. Where is it? 2025. We're going to plan right now. 2025 to go.
I'll look it up right now. Let me see if they've posted it. Let me see.
We need to start doing some giveaways on here.
I've got. Hold on. Let me grab it. Ooh.
We need this. Oh, it's in Tulsa. Oh yeah, Grand Lake of the Cherokees in Tulsa.
Look at this for where, 16 people that are watching. This is the stuff I have to give away.
You're making a lot of noise with that. You just have to pick all that up.
Every bit of that.
Eric, they announced it not too long ago. Actually, it's at the. I just said it. Tulsa, Grand Lake of the Cherokees. I think Jason Creek, that's his home lake. He may have actually won it there before. I don't know. Or he's won maybe a tournament there before. But that's the location 2025. So
This year is.
Oh gosh, yeah. My bad. Yeah, it is.
Dude, we got to go 2025. It is a blast.
Sorry, Eric. I was totally wrong on that. Josh threw me off of that story. I have no recollection.
100% happened. I will never forget the day you ran into Dave Mercer, and then he laughed it off. He got up on stage.
Because look, Dave Mercer. I think Dave Mercer turned around, got mad, looked at me, and was like, "Okay, I'm not going to mess with that guy."
I don't know. Dave Mercer's a big dude.
He is a big dude.
He's a big dude. And what I love about Dave, if you've never been, and Eric has, we ran into him last year at the Classic. He has no cue cards. He doesn't read off anything, dude. The only thing he reads is the weights, and he does his thing, dude. He does his, and he is awesome, dude.
He's the best. He's the best.
And I want to have him on the show.
So the Classic has not been announced, like Eric said, but Red Crest in 2025 is at Guntersville. That'll be good. We should definitely go to that. It's not far.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the Classic in 2025 is like Kentucky Lake. It won't be, I know, or Chickamauga or somewhere within 4 or 5 hours driving distance.
Dude,
this guy says I'm planning to get a tattoo of the first fish my grandson catches. What should we target? Well, I mean, every kid's first fish is like a sunfish.
You know, it's a court to me. So for me, for instance,
is this Scott Butler?
This would I don't know.
Scott Butler gets a tattoo of fish is going to be a fried fish.
So as an adult now, as a 31-year-old, when I think of my dad was not a fisherman, but he had a pontoon, and he liked to take me twice a year crappie fishing, sometimes once.
That's a good one.
And he would take me out. And when I think of growing up as a kid fishing, of course, you know, our big thing was once I was like 15 or 16 and was old enough to drive, we would wade fish and catch smallmouth all the time. But when I think of like childhood memory, I always think back to the day that me, 3 of my buddies, and Dad went out. And dude, I bet we caught 100 crappie that day. That was smaller than your hand, but we caught so many, dude. It was so much fun. So
that's what I always say. If someone says, "Did you grow up fishing and hunting?" I say, "Hey, look, my dad was not a hunter. He really wasn't a fisherman. His idea was to go out on the pontoon, take some bologna sandwiches and some cakes and some Diet Coke and some beer and just sit there all day. And if you caught something, great. And if you didn't, he didn't care."
Hey, listen, me and John at the Classic in Knoxville, we'd go watch them launch boats. We'd go back and we'd make fried bologna sandwiches every single morning. And every single morning. And there's not a time that I don't eat a bologna sandwich with mayonnaise, and not tomato for John because John hates tomatoes, but tomato for me because, dude, I can see Dad now. He'd put mayonnaise, bologna, tomato, and then he would put enough salt on his tomato to give him a heart attack, which it did.
which is why he's no longer with us.
Which it did. So thanks for bologna sandwiches.
Anyway. Well, look, dude, I am so impressed with Drew Gill, and I'm going to be a fan of Drew Gill from here on out. Now, look, we've not had anyone on the show that I've disliked, but some of them are dry. Some of them are like, you ask them a question like, "Hey, how did it go for you on Toledo Bend?" It was okay. Like that's the question, right? You got to pull it out of them, like you got to entice them to talk.
Yeah,
dude, Drew was like a surgeon with the way he was so precise in his attack at bass fishing. And as a person who likes detailed plans, I really appreciate that.
Hey, I consider myself a decent bass fisherman, but Drew was using some words that was definitely above my pay grade. So glad you joined us tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad I was here. So anyway, look, we appreciate you sticking with us. We got 14 people. We were up to over 30. And we're trying to grow this. We're trying to grow the page. We're trying to grow our viewership. And a couple things. One is next Thursday, we'll have a bass fishing newsletter that we send out every Thursday morning. We have about 24,000 subscribers to the newsletter. And but we want to grow that as much as we can. So be watching for that. I will post it on the Facebook page. Also, if you really want to help us, The best way to do that is to go to our page, which is Bass Fishing Live. Click on those three little dots right there. And when you do that, you can go to where it says invite friends and invite your friends to like the page. We would really appreciate it. And if you don't, that's okay. We still want you to join us every Thursday night. We'll be here every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. It'll either be us and someone else, or us and a pro, or us and a local, or we're just going to be here talking about bass fishing. And if you want to talk with us, you get in the comments. If you have questions, if you send us your big bass photos. We'd love to share some of those during the live. You don't have to be recent. It could be big bass. I just saw, Josh, I'm going to send you this to post in the morning about a kid at Toledo Bend just caught like 11 pounder. And so we'll post that. Yeah. So anyway, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And we'll see you next week.
See y'all. Thanks for watching.